Join Card Tricks this Christmas. New buyers will get up to £100 off their first purchase, valid for everything in the store, from big spots, belts, shirts, and much more. Use the code JingleBalls50 with a Z. Good luck and Merry Christmas from everyone at Card Tricks.
And now, presenting from across the pond, it's the Squared Circle Relics Podcast.
Welcome along, this is Jamie Stocker here for another SCR session here on the Squared Circle Relics Podcast, and I'm very pleased to be joined by Billy Celio of Upper Deck. Billy, great to have you back here on Squared Circle Relics Podcast. How are you?
Always a pleasure. Doing good. It's fairly early in the morning for me here. It's probably in the evening there for you.
It's nighttime here now, pretty much. But it's good to be able to talk to you in this morning. Thanks for starting your day so early for us.
Oh, not a problem.
I mean, we've got lots to run through. So we had a quick conversation at the end of our last session. So I actually spoke to you just before All In the summer, and we said it'd be love to get you on to talk about the AEW First Edition. Myself, I'm obviously trying to get the full set. I know you've got a big passion for these early AEW sets in yourself as well, been heavily involved in that. But before we get into the First Edition, for anyone who missed that first interview, just give the listeners a bit of an intro into yourself as to what you do at Upper Deck exactly, and kind of when did you join Upper Deck, and kind of a bit of your background in kind of card making as well, really.
Yeah, so I've been at Upper Deck, and I've been saying 10 years for a while, and I realized in less than a month it's going to be 11 years. Started right at the beginning of the year, 11 years ago, and got hired as a project manager. Now, people wonder what a project manager is. So there are many different aspects of building a set of trading cards, and my job is to really come with the building the set. Like sometimes people use the word architect, sometimes to construct the set together, stuff like that. But I don't. Basically, what I'm trying to get to is I don't design the sets. I give our designers credit. I draw stick figures and say, okay, now make a cool looking card. But my job is to really come up with, what each insert, what the base set, autographs, memorabilia. Is there going to be deco foil, gloss? What type of paper? Are there any kind of, kind of like buyouts and stuff like that? And I build a set. And then I have to put it in a financial costing, which then needs to be approved after you get to a certain, margin needs to be approved by the higher ups. And once it's approved, I then have to write a brief, which could be anywhere between 10 pages to 60 pages, and kind of in detail give description of what each insert requires. So we have this big meeting that we go over with that brief. So we'll have a coordinator who's someone that builds the checklist, and I'll say, hey, I'm looking for, tag teams, or I'm looking for, the top wrestlers, or I'm looking for, just different female wrestlers, like what's going to be in that insert. And then these guys can tell you who, like the results of every single dark match that, like they have a big knowledge of wrestling. And then we have like our brand managers, who are the ones that deal with AEW, like, hey, are you cool with if we use this type of imagery, or are you cool with these type of logos and stuff like that? They deal directly with AEW
Okay.
to make sure everything is good. We have our purchasing person who, like, hey, I want this type of paper. We have our pre-press and designers who are like, I'll give design direction. And we have our photo people, like, hey, I want portrait style shots. Hey, I want action shots. I want them flying through the air, that sort of stuff. So it's a big group of people that all come together. Our legal department, hey, are these insert names? Is anybody else using them? Because obviously we're not the only ones making wrestling cards. So you have to be careful. You can't use like a trademarked insert name. So they go through and check everything. So it's, as I said, it's a big group of people. We go over the brief that I write, and the funny thing is, people think that, it takes like a couple weeks to build a set of cards. This usually is anywhere between 11 to 16 months before the product is supposed to come out. And I say
Wow.
supposed to come out because things obviously have been getting delayed. There's just a lot of outside circumstances that have happened in recent years, and we're trying to catch up. But yeah, that's it's done that far at a time. So that's why you ask, hey, why is Jade still in some sets? Well, it's because those were built a
When the
while
journey
ago,
started, yeah.
and they're built on specific types of forms that are cut a certain way that don't allow us to remove wrestlers from those sets. Otherwise, it would cost tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to hand remove those cards.
100%. And I mean, for you, obviously, you've now been involved with Upper Deck. Obviously, we know you're a card collector yourself. And I think being involved with Upper Deck, obviously, you've got that ability to kind of, see a whole range of different sports and different aspects. Do you collect all kind of different types of cards? Or is there only wrestling that you collect? I mean, what kind of other things do you like to collect card-wise?
So the biggest things I collect probably are wrestling, women's soccer, anything Detroit. So anything Detroit, Red Wings, Pistons, Tigers, Lions. I'm a big Detroit fan. I'm born and raised in Michigan. That's my team.
Nice.
And UFC. I,
Okay.
I I collect UFC. Uh, but I'm more of like a PC guy too. Like I'll get specific people, and we'll probably get into detail about my
Definitely
obsession
against it.
with a specific wrestler, or I have like I'll follow. Like we put in our Goodwin Champions, we've had Octagon girls in there, and I'll collect like their cards because I'll see them at different events because I always go to like the International Fight Week in Vegas and collect
Okay.
autographs and stuff. So I'm a big collector in those. And then the other thing I also collect is, I get signed photos. So I collect signed autographs. I'm definitely a mark back in the day. I can't do it as much as I used to because, obviously I'm gonna root for AEW. That's who I built cards for, but I can't. They can't see me at hotels and airports anymore, or outside of arenas. I kind of have to behave myself because if I go to a signing and they recognize me as that guy that bugged them as soon as they got off of a 5-hour flight, they
Yeah, of
uh,
course.
they might not be very excited to see me.
No, and I mean, you say obviously, you've got the holidays, and you've been obviously keeping an eye out on various bits and pieces. So we'll definitely get into your PC as we get through the interview. But I want to get into obviously AEW First Edition with you today. It's a set that I know you're very passionate about. I'm obviously still trying to get a complete master set of everything of this. So I think this is probably a good time to kind of work through the conversation of where this even started off first with AEW. So with them forming kind of quite late 2019. Do you know when the idea came about in the first place to start working with AEW? Was it that they approached you, or did you approach them as a company? And what was that journey time from that first conversation to actually getting that first package out? I guess 18 months later. I guess.
Yeah, so we're always looking for new licenses. I mean, through entertainment, through gaming, through other sports and stuff. So, I bugged them for a long time to go after any kind of wrestling. I've always wanted to build. I wanted to always build wrestling sets, or a wrestling set at least.
Mhm.
And I think I told you this. I even told them, like, because we do entertainment, I'm like, hey, can you go after the TV show Glow? I go, that actually would be a
Yeah.
pretty interesting trading card set because there's some good names in there. And man, to make like an 80s style
A,
wrestling
a
set
retro
with
feel
that,
to it. Yeah.
oh, I thought that would be so much fun. So, I kind of bugged them about going after something wrestling, and it's funny. I got a call, and they're like, "Hey, Billy, can you come up to the? We have our very important meeting room. Like we have our meeting rooms are all named after like some of our spokesmen. So we have the Orr room, we have the McDavid room, we have like a legendary room where gaming stuff. And when you get a call to go in the Jordan room,
Oh yeah.
something's pretty important. So they have snacks in the Jordan room. Like they have like monsters and waters and little bags of nuts and stuff. So I was all excited. If anything, I was at least getting some free snacks for the day
Something's happening here. Yeah.
to eat. But we went in there and they had a couple of representatives from AEW, and they're like, "Hey, like to introduce you. This is Billy. This is one of our product managers." And they kind of discussed what they were doing there, and obviously my face just lit up, and they just kind of wanted to, kind of not throw me to the wolves, but kind of be like, hey, what type of sets do you think that we could do? And I'm like, oh, okay, well, we could do this, like kind of just throwing out ideas at them just on the spot. Of they just wanted to be able to obviously see like, hey, we're not going to just build one set a year. I say that and what happened last year, but build one set a year and that be it. We definitely want to do a lot with that brand. We felt it was a strong brand. There was a lot of hype around it. So yeah, it kind of started there. And after you have that initial meeting, there's a lot of waiting because there's a
Okay.
lot of lawyers involved and a lot of paperwork involved. A lot of, they call it red lines, where basically like they'll go through a contract and then they'll use, I don't know, I think it's called red lines because they used to use like red pens to kind of like correct some stuff or negotiate. And so it went through a lot of different things until finally they're like, okay, we've got the license, time to start building a set. And the weird thing is it's like we didn't know like where to start. By that I meant we don't have anything to go off of for wrestling. Like, how many cases do you build? How many how do you do this and that? I know the one thing that was that the higher ups felt very strong about was to protect a number of things. And what I mean by protect is protect autographs, protect memorabilia. Don't just be throwing that stuff out there, one a box or one,
Yeah, of
that sort of
course.
thing. And I've had this discussion multiple times about how it was very important for them to really just kind of protect the autographs. And you can see in the finished product, there's a lot of like the autographs do value out.
Yeah.
In retrospective to our competitors, like some of their top wrestlers still sell for much less than some of the wrestlers in our
Yeah.
sets that
We
might not
discuss this all the
necessarily,
time.
yeah,
Yeah.
that might not necessarily be at the level that some of the top names or legends have. And that's another thing, and I might just be rambling on here. That's another thing that we don't really, with AEW right now, we don't really get like the legends. That's one advantage I'd say our competitors have, is they can go back to the well with legends of guys that are like 50, 60 years old that have retired. They can go back and still get deals with them
Yeah.
to sign autographs. Whereas, we really don't have legends yet for AEW. So we're working with, new talent and current talent.
And I think that's the thing as well, isn't it? With AEW, you're very much a current product, which is fantastic, especially for this first year, because everything was all brand new. AEW obviously was breaking new ground. It was a whole new style, and obviously the other companies and things like that hadn't kind of caught on with any of this stuff that AEW was doing at that time. And I think that really was kind of the perfect time to put out a card set, because it was totally different with the way that it was built, the value on autos, the value on relics, what the configuration for a hobby box was. It was different to what was currently out there, wasn't it?
Yeah, and you know what? There were so many I mean, yeah, you had like the Cody Rhodes, who already had cards and sets and stuff, but there were so many wrestlers, except for maybe a few like independent sets that came out that had
Yeah.
never had cards before, and so there was a lot of thought to making sure that you take advantage of new wrestlers in this set for sure, which I'm sure is going to lead to the question eventually about the RC and not having an RC. I don't know if you want to jump into that immediately, or if you've
Yeah.
got a pecking order of questions.
No,
But
let's do it. So let's get into that kind of configuration piece. So obviously you said that obviously you're behind the set, you're configuring the set, the number of inserts. When did you then decide then on the base set as to who you were going to be picking? As much were you given like the base set has to be 100 and you had to then fit that criteria of 100, or did you give the list of names and say, look, we really need these guys in the set, these have to be in the set? How does that kind of work for that base set? And then let's get into kind of the rookie things, like logos, and how did you kind of manage that as well?
yeah, so the behind the scenes stuff that a lot of people might not know is like a sheet of paper that the cards are printed on. There's different sizes, and it's pretty much, it's like 18. They call them like 18 ups or 30 ups or 60 ups or 90 ups, 100 ups, whatever, and that's what they call them. So um, the way to be like, in a lot of times, so there's the 18 up, there's a 30 up, I believe. A 42, a 60, a 90, and a 100. And sometimes all they're doing is taking that 100 up and they're just cutting it in half, or they're doing
Okay.
like something like that. So most companies will use 100 up forms, so to be as efficient as possible, to like, because you get cost per sheet.
Right.
So
Okay.
a hundred's a good number for that. Now, how many wrestlers do you put in there? Like the question was like, does do the Jacksons each get their own individual card, or do they get a tag team card? Like stuff like that. Like we had to kind of think of like how to maximize and how to be like the smartest around there. And then even like the crew, like there's some big names that were
Yeah.
part of like what we call the crew. You can't see me doing quotation marks because we're on radio, but I'm doing crew like stuff. But there were some big names in there too. So I wanted to make sure that we had that. I wanted to make sure that we used the tag teams to be able to maximize the number of wrestlers that did have cards and autographs. And then so we had 60 wrestlers, we had 10 tag teams, we had 10 crew members. And I felt that was enough without like digging way too deep into a checklist. And
Of course. Yeah.
it's still kind of, at that time, that's still kind of deep. Like obviously the roster, I think, has even gotten bigger since we built the first set. So I was pretty comfortable with the split of having 80 total cards in the base set. And then what people might not know is the AEW Wrestling Magazine cards were on that same form. So that
Right.
equals your 100. And the magazines, that kind of came up from, I grew up, big WWF fan, and I can call it WWF because that's what it was called at that time. And I used to buy that magazine. Like I would go to the 7-Eleven or the drugstore, and they had that magazine rack and stuff. And I
Yeah.
remember they had the really glossy covers back in the day, and I would buy those. So I was just like, it'd be kind of fun to kind of recreate that on a card. So those were all on what we call Form One. That was the base set and the magazine cards.
And you said obviously you went through that list, and I think you're about right there. I think, let's say, everyone that needed a card did have a card in that first edition. I don't think there was any sort of glaring omissions, even by the time it was released. I know we were a little bit later than we expected for release, but everyone was pretty much there. Was there anyone else that you kind of wish later on that you did add, or do you think you covered those, I guess, with the preview cards and stuff? Was everyone that you really wanted in that first edition?
I think there were, who I wish was in that first set was Aubrey. I know it sounds
Okay, of
weird, but
course.
I thought she should have had a card. I felt so bad because I saw her at an event. I go, I promise you're in the next set. I'm like, we have Spectrum come, because they signed autographs, and some of them are like, hey, where were my cards and stuff? It's like, sorry. I think Aubrey would have been a better one to put into that first set, to be honest with you. But like you said, it just, after a certain point through the production, we can't change stuff. Like
No, of course.
the files are done, they're sent to the vendor, they have to print the card and all that stuff. So I remember when the news about Punk came out, like we had an idea. They're actually pretty secretive with us too. They don't give us like heads up, like they're good
No.
at keeping secrets, so we don't necessarily know like what's going on. But I remember like talking with our brand manager, being like, we have to do something with Punk, and our brand manager Paul did a great job getting that done, because it was like a boom boom situation where it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, that was done in a day or two. Like,
Hmm.
okay, let's get the photo, let's get like, and once we saw the success of that, we're like, okay, we might be onto something where maybe we can do the new arrivals set for in the future. That's basically where the new arrival set came from, was doing
Yeah.
those preview cards. Because after a certain point, they're like, okay, we're done with preview cards. Because was it Soraya that I wanted to do one from, or it was somebody? It might have been, no. You want to know who it was? It was Ruby Soho.
Right.
I
Okay.
think we wanted to do a new arrival of her, and a promo of her, and they're like, I
Breathe
think
of
we're
her.
done. I think we're done with the promos. Let's just do this new arrival set. So that's what we did, and So I think I was I think we got everybody that we could. The name that I'm still trying to get, and I saw him at Comic-Con, and I don't usually mark out, but I did get a picture with Tony Khan. Saw
I was
him
going to
there,
mention this at some point
and
to this chat. Yeah.
I said, "Hey," I work for Upper Deck. I go, I love making the cards. He's like, "Oh, cool." I go, "We got to get that. We got to get you signing we got to get you on one of these cards." He goes, I know. I've got cards I'm supposed to sign." So we are trying to get Tony Khan onto the set, but you know what? It took them a while to get Vince. So
Oh, yeah.
I think it's fair that he doesn't have a card yet, and maybe that'll be a big card down the road.
I think for me, I think that's the only thing that would really sort of peak this first edition. Even if it was just a base Tony Khan card, that would have been nice to kind of round up that kind of first year of AEW to kind of see this is what the picture of the landscape of the company was at that point in time. But I think otherwise, you've covered pretty much most bases there, really, haven't you? And I think talking about obviously the base set now, going on about some of the parallels within the set as well. I want to talk about your, we saw it a little bit on our All In interview, your kind of carpet sample book is what I've kind of coined it, but your kind of book you've got there of all the different foils and things like that. How do you then go through those and kind of think, oh, that would look really good with that wrestler? Or how do you match those images up at that early stage? Because you've got no real references to how the images would work if you're kind of doing stick men at that stage, I guess.
So a lot of times when doing designs, there's a couple things there. I can come up with an insert based off of a pattern or a foil board, or I can come up with an insert and then pick a pattern to go with it.
Right.
And that's kind of what I did in this set. I kind of came up with words that were associated with AEW or with wrestling, and came up with insert names and said, okay, what pattern should I use? And it was so funny because, we discussed this. The kaboom pattern that is perfect for a wrestling card. And people are like, the kaboom pattern. Yes, the pattern is actually called kaboom. So if you have a kaboom card by Panini, they tried really hard to think of an insert, the name of that parallel, and they basically just named it the parallel of the paper.
Right.
And my brand manager's like, "Wait, are you using the kaboom?" I'm like, "Yeah, they don't own it. Like that's not theirs to own.
It's in your book of samples.
It's in the book, so I'm going to use it." And so we used the kaboom pattern, and there was a fireworks pattern also. That's one of the designs. I think that's the pyro, and I think the dynamite is the kaboom.
And as you go for that process, do you kind of think to yourself, is there other things that you kind of would imagine image-wise that you would scream? I mentioned obviously the inserts there. Are there any others that you thought you could try and do that first edition, but said, well, actually, we've got too much going on here, we'll have to park that for another? Or have you been kind of happy with the different foils and finishes that you've been using for that first edition?
So, we started small, I guess is the best way of putting it. And so I didn't have a lot to work with. I didn't have a lot to do, or that I could do. I wanted to add some technologies that had never been done before for wrestling cards, which we did. We have since progressed and added new foil boards to some sets. Like we created the Outburst parallel with hockey, and we brought that to AEW, and I think those look really nice. They'll be done a little bit differently. Normally the backgrounds are knocked out, which they should have been, but they weren't, unfortunately. It should just be all silver in the background and no color. But I believe that the next set will look like that. No, I'm pretty happy with the different. I would have liked to have made like a clear cut version that first year, which is something that we have since progressed to start doing. But PETG/acetate is not cheap. And what some people don't understand is before you even get one printed card, they have to test each color. And they run probably to test all four colors, they probably run between 250 to 500 sheets of paper to test each color. And so you're using the four printing plate colors for each one, and then you might even have what's called the PMS. So you notice there's like the color changes. There's the gold, there's the red, there's the silver. Like that's called a PMS color, and so
Right.
then they have to test that color too. So running that on acetate, like using 2,000 sheets of maybe not 2,000, but using close to 1,000 sheets of paper already, that might cost anywhere between $7 to $10 a pop. That's expensive.
Yeah,
So
definitely. Yeah.
you have to be smart. And the one thing that a lot of people don't know also, like they're like, oh well, it costs this much a box. It wasn't anticipated to cost that much a box when it first came out. I think it started off at like 150, $200 a box, maybe even more.
It was going. Yeah, yeah.
And it was built at a fraction of that. But
Right.
it's supply and demand. Like we sell stuff to our vendors, and the vendors will then determine what they sell it at by supply and demand. And the fact that, like I mentioned, maybe we didn't build as much of it as our competitors built, and so it wasn't as available to everybody, or the quantity that they wanted wasn't available. So they saw the demand, and they set the prices accordingly.
Yeah, and that's something I was going to touch on here as well. That anticipation of the release when it was on its way. Like I say, we saw those prices originally. Again, we saw them around $100, and then that first kind of release, and then suddenly they all vanished. And again, that supply and demand. Most of your retailers were then putting it above, to 250, then maybe even 275 in some places. But that anticipation did not drop until release, and that's really interesting to kind of see. Even like to this point now, people are still wanting to buy this first edition set, and we'll go into that in a bit more detail as kind of the sort of legacy of it as it lives on EPAC now as well. But talking about those acetate cards, obviously the Wednesday in Actions was deemed as sort of one of the bigger hits of the hobby box.
Yep.
And I think that was another thing. It was the first time we'd kind of seen something like that done in wrestling, and kind of that shadow back box design. What was your idea around doing something like that as kind of a hit? And, was that quite nice to try and find more unique images for that Wednesday in Action set?
Yeah, so we wanted when we built the set, we kind of determined, okay, we want this many memorabilia cards, this many autographs, and this many technology cards is what we call them. So it was just a matter of, okay, what are those technology cards going to be? So the shadow, like Upper Deck, is our president. He used to be a brand manager and worked in sports, but he's very proud of shadow box cards, and I'd never seen a shadow box card before. So that's where the Wednesday because there was a Wednesday night show. So
Yeah.
I wanted to build like a technology that hadn't been done yet on wrestling cards, and so that's where those cards kind of came into fruition. Is just using a technology that hadn't been done before. Same with the breakouts. Like that's kind of like our EX style card, where there's a rainbow foil board, and then there's PETG on the back. And again, I don't recall seeing, like, I didn't invent anything new, but I just wanted to provide some new options for wrestling collectors. So that's where
Yeah.
both of those cards came from.
And the same with the canvases as well. They've obviously come back, after the next few years and things like that. But having the canvas cards, and also considering you'd have some SPs in there, which were not necessarily an Easter egg, but they were kind of a bit more surprised that people weren't expecting SPs in there. Was that part of your kind of set building aspect, that you wanted some SPs to appear? And the same with the kind of finisher parallels as well. That was something that people did overlook when they were opening up the hobby box, and then it found out obviously this was a rarer SP kind of parallel. Like, was that kind of always the intention to kind of keep those Easter eggs in there for people?
So we have our canvas cards in hockey, and it's like 90 cards. I'm like, this is way too much for wrestling. And what I love about canvas is it's known for its unique imagery, and there's so much unique imagery available for wrestling. Like, there's just so much stuff that goes on in wrestling, that I definitely wanted to take advantage of that. So I thought canvas was a no-brainer, especially because it's a flagship staple in hockey. I'm like, we need to bring this to wrestling too. And so then again, you have to kind of figure out, well, what's a good number for wrestlers to put in this? Because I don't think, like, yeah, we had 100 people in the base, or 80 people in the base set,
Yeah.
but I don't necessarily know if all of those people need canvas cards. So again, that 100 up form sort of thing, I'm like, how can I do this to where it's just like I can add some scarcity to it? And so, because we have, and I say this because we have like our Young Gun canvas or our Program of Excellence canvas or our retired canvas. So we do rare canvas cards. So I needed to figure out how to do rare canvas cards. So I
Yeah.
basically did 30, and I had those cards up 3 times. And then I
Right.
did the SPs, I had 10, and it was only up once.
Wow.
So
Okay. Yes, that makes sense.
it's kind of like a way to, like, there's 2 ways of cutting forms of cards. It's called slipstream and guillotine cutting. The slipstream is basically like chunk chunk, cards go together, boom. There's no sorting or anything. The guillotine is literally like chop, chop, chop. And you use guillotine cutting when you have numbered cards,
Right.
because it basically gives you the stack of, okay, here are all the,
Here, 99s or whatever.
these specific players, or wrestlers or whatever. So it's a lot cheaper to cut it slipstream. So I was able to kind of create a form with the canvas to create SPs and to be able to slipstream cut those cards.
And I guess that really gives you, that kind of gives you your ratios there quite nice as well. You know exactly what that kind of distribution will be amongst the boxes as well, won't you?
Yeah, we actually have like this Excel thing, and you put the numbers in, and it gives you the exact ratios. Like you say, there's going to be this many cards. It's going to be up this many times on the form. I want it to fall this often, and boom, there it gives you the ratios.
Nice. I
So
mean,
it's not just me sitting at a desk with a calculator for hours trying to figure this stuff out. Fortunately, we have some tools that help us out in that department.
being a big Excel VBA kind of geek, that my eyes are just lit up. If you can see me on camera with a big grin on my face at the fact that you're using kind of Excel coding now, it's that's really cool. And I just as we were going through kind of those other bits and pieces, I wanted to talk about that distribution as to going into EPAC as well. Obviously, you have to try and there's obviously the delay between physical release and EPAC, but how do you then get that product over to the likes of ComC within that process? Because obviously it's already at ComC by the time it goes on EPAC, aren't they, for people to transfer over? So do you have to plan that at the same time, or is that kind of happening earlier than physical release? How does that distribution work to make sure people can get everything they want, really?
So the way EPAC works, and basically I'll explain how we build a set for EPAC, and it'll answer your question for this set specifically. So when I get volumes, and it'll say we want this many cases of EPAC, we want this many cases of hobby, and we have this many cases of blasters, fat packs, it gives me all the different SKUs. So when we have what's called a pre-launch. And we have vendors that print the cards. Like, we don't print the cards ourselves. We use vendors. And the vendors, we will give a loop of, okay, here's a breakdown of how many of each cards go into each SKU.
Right.
And like, people think, oh, they can just keep printing. No, because all those EPAC cards, they go to ComC. And then ComC has to scan the cards, and that's part of the delay, is just the amount of time it takes to scan cards, and how many people they have available to do that. So there's a specific number of packs and cards and everything that are designated for EPAC in the build, and the percentage. So it's broken down to the individual card. So say you have, and I'm just gonna give basic numbers. These aren't the numbers or anything, but say you
No, of course.
have, 50% of it is EPAC, 50% of it is hobby. So then they'll do an even split. 50% of the cards, like numbered cards, we'll say the exclusives, go into EPAC. And if it's 75-25, 25 of the cards will go into EPAC. We learned our lesson real quick the first year of EPAC. We just said, mix these cards up and put them into EPAC. And then, I think it was in hockey, and like the Jack Eichel high gloss cards, there were like 6 of them that fell in E-Pack, and there weren't 60% of the run was not an E-Pack for compared to hobby, and people
Yeah,
like, well, you're giving E-Pack all the good cards, and we're like, that was just a sort, like, we
this is
asked them
what's
to
happened.
mix it and sort it, so we just decided, okay, we're actually going to give specific directions at this number, and we even give directions like, I don't want cards 1 through 50 in this set, and cards 51 through, like, we'll say mix the numbered cards and then pass them on. And that's a little bit more important in sports because of like jersey numbers and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But, and then we can kind of mix and match where all the hits go. But like I said, there's a specific number based off the percentage of how much is EPAC and how much is hobby. It's then transferred from our vendor to ComC. ComC then scans it, and then when you open up EPAC, like all that stuff, all that information is already passed on to ComC, and it is what it is, and it's all random of what you get. But that like they have a specific number of these type of cards, and that's what's randomized in EPAC. Like they're not going to say like, oh, this card is going to be in the first pack of, like, they can't do that. It's just
No.
randomized, and it comes from a pool of cards.
And so you see those when you do get hit in EPAC. Obviously, you see in the top loader, which obviously becomes your ComC image. So you are getting that actual card that is on your EPAC there as well, aren't you? Which is really cool.
Yep. Now it costs money to like scan these cards, and it costs money to store these cards. And so I know it's a little bit of a bummer that the base cards are digital. It's because there's just so much. It would cost even more.
How much would you have? Yeah.
Exactly, to store. So I think we came up with a great idea for stacking, where okay, now we're storing a tenth of, if it's a 10 stack, now we're storing a tenth of the cards that we would have had to stack compared to all the base, and it's a higher end looking card. And the funny thing is, we did that, and then all the shops got upset with us, and we're like, wait a minute, how come they get this special insert? So that's where Clear Cut came about. Is like, okay, so now in our hockey releases, Clear Cut is actually hobby exclusive because EPAC has the foil parallels.
Yeah. And let's talk about those rainbow foils. So that was obviously the thing where you can trade obviously your base in to get the rainbow foils. Now, I obviously have got the full set of these, but I'm amazed actually, because they're still actually quite difficult to achieve these in the first place in order to get a full rainbow foil set. But they go over to ComC and they're still like, 15 to 20 cents, which I find that they're really undervalued. I mean, what's your thoughts on kind of like those rainbow foils? Do you think they should have more respect within collections, or do you think that's really roughly where you would have actually seen it go to eventually on ComC?
Oh, no, I completely agree with you. I think they should value higher than they do. I don't think people understand the work that it takes.
That's massive.
The one thing that I do love about the whole concept of this too is EPAC is not just like a place to buy cards, but it's a community, and people can trade. Like, you buy a pack of cards, and you might have a PC wrestler that you like, and one by one, you can trade that pack of cards, and then you might get a foil version of that person, because depending on how many cards that you deal with and whatnot. So I think that's kind of cool. It would take you forever if you just do one card at a time, but you can even look and see, like on a card that you have, you can look and see who else has, because we have a wish list.
Yeah.
You can look and see who has that card on their wish list. So you can be like, oh, this person wants this card. Let's see if they have the card that I'm looking for. And that's another really cool part about EPAC, is just like, who's looking for the cards that you have.
Yeah.
But no, I completely agree. I think they're undervalued. I think people underestimate how many of them there actually are, because yes, there's, like, we print to a certain number, but then again, not everybody turns in their cards. There's going to be those cards that just are sitting on EPAC till whenever, until they
runs out.
They shut down their account or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's not 100% completion rate. I can tell you that much.
I mean, I always try and keep a lookout for them anyway. And again, just trying to get that set. But you think actually the fact that you can pick up that entire rainbow foil set for the same price as a normal base set on eBay, it blows my mind that people don't value that as much as it really should do there. So yeah, it's good to hear that you kind of feel the same way on that, really.
Oh yeah, and it's from a numbers standpoint, it's right up there with maybe some of our other parallels. I can't give exacts on print runs and stuff like that. That's just kind of like a company rule.
No, of course,
but
no, of course.
it's comparable to some of the other parallels that I'm like, wow. The one though that you mentioned is the finishers. I don't think people understand how rare those are, really. It's one of the rare parallels. Not as rare as like the numbered, and like the the highest numbered is 100 in the first series. It's not as it's higher than that, but I think it's the technically like because we have the one, the 10, the 100. It's the next rarest parallel, and you better believe I was collecting my TKOs, because I was just like, wow, like people, you got to look at ratios when you're buying stuff. Like, yes, it's not as shiny and flashier, and all it was remember I told you about PMS plates, how it's just one. All it is a PMS color plate. Like we changed the blue to a different one, and it knocks out, and that's where the white is. So that's why,
right, that makes sense. Yeah,
I have to, like I said, we aimed probably too low that first year. We created scarcity, but I had to think of little tricks and ways to get these printed as efficiently as possible. So even like a little thing like that, parallel, for those that don't know, parallels are the cheapest way to like make another insert, kind of, because you're using the same 4-color plates. So that's why you're seeing, in the prisms and in the chromes and all that stuff, a million, and even our platinums, like a million different parallels, because it creates more hits, and it's the cheapest way to create more hits.
And yes, it's true what you said about those finishes, and they're holding the value really well. You kind of do a scale, and people, trying to pick those up, they do have a good price, and actually outvalue a lot of the autos and relics at this point as well. I think people do respect them as for what they are now.
Well, I'm glad they didn't at first, because that
they were a nice little Easter egg initially.
Yeah, I probably have about, like I said, 10 or so of the TKOs.
Yeah, hold on to them. I'll definitely hold on to them. And just before we get into kind of your PC stuff, I just wanted to obviously talk about some of the autos as well, because you were quite ambitious as a team, obviously, to do an auto for everyone within that initial base 80 cards. And you had no redemptions within the set as well. I mean, that must have been quite hard as well in order to get that timing right and still get them all live in product as well, because you do get that, obviously, not across the board within wrestling cards,
So AEW, and I'm being completely honest, is one of the best licensors that I've worked with for sets. They go above and beyond trying to help us, and they understand that they got to do a little bit of work too, and they go above and beyond that. So we have signings with the wrestlers. It might be at like a show, it might be someplace else. We're able to knock out a lot of wrestlers, like if we do it like at a show, like we're able to knock out a lot of wrestlers because they're all there, and they'll be and AEW will schedule times for them to sign and get that stuff done, and then they all don't come. MJF ain't walking into a signing. I'm just going to tell you that much. He's got his own schedule. Heck, he barely shows up for his paid signings, at shows. So AEW does a great job of getting them their sticker envelopes and stuff that we request and get and pay for and stuff, and get the stuff, and they help us out a lot to get, because they understand it's important to get all the top guys. They want to promote the top guys, and and I say guys, I mean wrestlers, guys and girls. And they know that if they have the best wrestlers in those sets, that they'll do better. So that's kind of, they're smart. They're very smart, and they understand that. So and even stuff with like relics and stuff, they've gone above and beyond. Like, I was super excited about Black Diamond because I was so jealous too of Tony. He built that set and he got to use strap. Like, there's never been wrestling like these are from the belts that the
Yeah.
wrestlers. This isn't like, oh, this is from the fabric of the stuff used to make the belts. No, these are the actual belts that they took the plates off of, and they had the strap, and they gave us the strap. And
So
how?
I'll,
Go ahead.
so I will give you a little bit of a nugget here. So I've got the Flair proof sheet for the WWF Championship Clash set in 2001. And they tried to do that then and then decided against it, reading through the kind of conversations there. So someone thought about that and then it's never been able to be done since. So you're really quite groundbreaking to actually be able to conquer this issue as well, you know?
And it was AEW saying, "Hey, do you want this?
Yeah.
Hey, do you like?" They don't just sit there and like they've got guys in there that are smart enough to sit there and say, "Hey, this might be cool in a card. Let me ask Upper Deck."
Mhm.
And they've done that. At Tops, I'm so mad they beat me to turnbuckles. I had that plan and it just took too long for the product to come out. But um, I swear sometimes there's like microphones in the
There's
office
moles.
and they're hearing. Yeah, exactly. But turnbuckles. There's some other cool stuff that's being built in some sets that haven't been discussed yet, but I can say there's a product that's going to have a lot of memorabilia in it. There's a extremely high end product that we're working on. There's an autograph. There's a signature based set that we're working on. Like, we've our plan is to do like a flagship and then to do like two other sets, and I think we're going to mix up allure and metal so they kind of go every other year, so we don't
Okay.
burn people out with PMGs and we don't burn people out with chrome. And so Upper Deck has a stable of strong branded products that we feel would work with AEW also. So we're dipping into those and giving AEW their versions of a number of different sets that I'm really excited about, and I've worked on a few of them already for the next, like, we're planning like 2026 already, if that tells you
Well,
anything.
I was going to say that. Are you fully back on doing obviously the set building side of things? I know obviously some of the sets earlier this year you were kind of working with Tony. Are you now back on doing your own sets? Are you working closely with those guys now?
So I don't want to say I've been taking off. I've been taken off. We have a number of product managers, and some of them wanted to do wrestling also. So, I think Pat and Matthew have both done the flagship the last couple years. And Matthew, I know, works on the match dated moments and the new
Yeah.
arrivals. I had done the Allure and the Metal Universe, and I kind of got stuck at a standstill of building AEW sets because those products were delayed so much that they bumped them up a year. And so
Right.
everyone's afraid that Metal Universe is gone. No, Metal Universe is back. I believe it's 2025. It'll be coming. Allure will be coming out, I think, at the beginning of the year,
Yeah,
or near the beginning
we're
of the
still
year. Um,
looking at very soon, aren't we?
and I know we just pre-launched that, so that means that's moving. And then we've got Metal Universe should come. Our goal is to do 3 to 4 sets a year now, and I think we're more on board doing that. We had a lot of stuff going through the system in this last year, and I think we're still trying to catch up with hockey, with entertainment, and entertainment, and AEW was in there too. So
Nice.
instead
Okay.
of instead of having something come out 2 years late, we just decided to change the year, update the set. Like, there's a lot of updates for that we had to do for Allure. There's a lot of updates that we had to do for Metal Universe to make sure that there's current wrestlers in there.
Which is good actually. It's realizing actually what you can do, and also what people also want to see in these sets as well. Like, they want to see that more update of a roster or a different look and things like that. So
Yeah,
that's good that you've kind of took those steps as well as
if
a
if we
company.
would have if we would have put out Metal Universe when we could have gotten it out, You might have still seen Cody Rhodes in it. It's like
Yeah, of course, of course.
can't
And there's been
do that.
Yeah, no, and there's been more of that, hasn't there? There's been lots more movement back and forth, so it definitely makes sense to sort of reassess and think, well, actually, what do we want to put out there for people,
Yep.
So just to kind of finish off, obviously, the discussion around First Edition, just to round up kind of the interview as such, really, I want to get into your own piece as to where you are as a set. I mean, do you like to collect the sets that you were actually involved with initially, or do you get more of the pride that you've actually helped build the set in the first place? I mean, what's kind of your collection of AEW stuff, especially First Edition in itself, really?
You're gonna laugh at this. I was at a premiere at the Newport Film Festival, and it was I can't remember the name of it. It was it's a wrestling movie, and it had like Emily Bett Ricketts in it. It's coming out soon.
Okay.
But anyway, I'm sitting there. My friend's like, Jim Ross is right over there. And I'm like, shut up. And I ran to my car. Why did I run to my car? Because I have in my car a set of this series just sitting in my car in case I ever run into any wrestlers. And I'm like, Mr. Ross, would you mind signing this? He's like, where'd you get this? And I can't do a Jim Ross imitation very well. He's like, where'd you get this? I go, I built the set. I go, I work for Upper Deck. I go, I always carry a set in my car in case I run into any wrestlers. And I know I said I don't mark out. I don't mark out in the ways of the airport and the hotel. But you know what? They're at a premiere. They're promoting a movie. They're there to promote it, and so people are there to sign autographs. Sometimes I went to Comic-Con. I saw the AEW group there. I got a couple autographs from Britt Baker
Nice.
and I think it was just Britt Baker because Swerve didn't do it and Tony Storm didn't do it, and I can't remember if there was anybody. Darby, I didn't have anything. Darby, I didn't think I had anything for, but I did talk to him. He was cool.
Nice.
But yeah, so I carry that set in my trunk of my car with other stuff that I try to get signed every now and then. But I from collecting standpoint, if I see an exclusive, like I like exclusives, and I don't mind autograph cards of specific wrestlers too, but I do like exclusives and high gloss. I do like numbered cards. I don't like slab anything. I don't grade anything. It's just
No,
goes
I
into
don't either.
it goes in my PC. But that's kind of what I collect from the set. And as mentioned or about to mention, I'm a big Ty Mello fan, and so I do look out for her stuff. I pretty much I almost have the rainbow now. I don't
Nice.
have the 101, but I have the auto out of 5, the auto out of 25. I probably have about I think I counted 10 to 12 of the base autos. I've got the high gloss. The high gloss took like 2 years to find.
Oh,
Someone on one of the
really?
line groups all of a sudden just posted it, and I'm like, how much you want? And he's like, is this a price? I'm like, just sold. I never see it. Like I
No,
don't know
no,
how many
no.
I don't know how many of those are still on EPAC. So I was just like done. I might have 12 of the exclusives. So if people trying to find the exclusives, I'm sorry, but I hoard them. That's
I've
that's
got
one of my.
I've got doubles of the finishers, so yeah, I'll get your details. I'll send you a couple more there as well.
Oh, don't keep them for yourself. The
That
breakouts and the inactions, I've been starting to pick up. Like if you're asking me what I'm picking up nowadays, I've been picking up the breakouts and the inactions from that set because I think they're really cheap for what I mean. They're hits. They're
yeah,
they're
yeah.
hits, and I'm finding them for like $5 to $10, and I'm like, that's a good
No,
price.
yeah.
So the one I wish I would have gotten into early because I know how many there are. The dotted line autos are those were supposed to be hard signed, and we just couldn't get
Yeah.
the form out. We couldn't get the form printed fast enough. That's the one frustration was trying to get hard signed cards into the set. We accomplished that the next year because it's like we have specific times that we sign and to get the cards done by that time and then to have them sign it. So what we did was I said, well, let's get the previous year's cards and put them into the next year's set. So the 2022 set, I actually have both autos of that. I have the canvas and I have the base, the tie metals for that. So I don't know if you count that as part of the set because it's technically part of the 2022 set,
This is that, yeah.
but they are 2021 cards. But
Were
yeah,
there any Time Mellow buybacks at all, or not at 15s? I don't think there was a Time Mellow, was there?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Was there any of the out of 15 buybacks for Time Mellow as well at all, or not?
She did the buyback autos.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking like that. I got
sorry,
those.
right, sorry, yeah.
And then unfortunately, it's frustrating. Like not the set that I built, but the next year they did the buybacks again and they forgot to number them. And they didn't put the COA sticker on. They didn't come with COAs, and they're supposed to come with COAs.
Right,
And so
okay.
I don't know what happened. So I don't want to say I don't trust them, but I don't trust them. Like, because someone can replicate it, and she has a very distinct autograph. Like, I'll know if it's hers or not. But that being said, I still like I prefer having the COA with it. So I didn't purchase any of the second year
Okay.
buybacks. I just have the first years.
So you got quite a good selection of Time Mellow stuff then from this first year.
Yeah. I'm a hoarder. Like I get, and the funny thing, what sucks is like she's not in the most recent sets because she's been out for a year, and they said,
Course,
hey,
yeah.
why don't you? She needs to like they pretty much told us like they want active wrestlers for the most part. So I haven't collected as much of the newer stuff because she's not in it. Like I was so bummed she wasn't in Black Diamond. Like I'm like, come on. And they're like, no, they want to be current. And I understand. You got some really good younger wrestlers in there, but I was really hoping that she'd be in that set. But part of my wallet is not complaining. I will say that much. I just don't know.
It's recovering.
I keep following her Instagram, and I'm telling she loves being a mom. You can just tell her and Sammy are just like obviously I'm only seeing what they're posting, but they are some of the best like the coolest parents. Like they celebrate every month with that girl. They dress her up. They have little parties. She really looks like she's enjoying being a mom. That being said, like she teased us a number of months back, showing like videos of her, doing bumps again. But haven't been seeing those videos in a while. So, hopefully
There
she
doesn't seem
comes
to be
back.
much rush, does there, at the minute? Yeah, I think
No,
she's not.
and I don't blame her. I don't blame her. The kid's going to be that age for a certain period of time and enjoy it. And they're really, I think they're really enjoying it. So good for them. Like that being said, do I have to? I'm kind of jumping on the Sky Blue bandwagon since I need somebody to collect. Julia Hart, I just picked up a red PMG of hers. Kind of a fan of hers too, but I might have told you this already. You know what her first, like one of my buddies told me this, but her first actual card is the first card she's on.
No,
is actually the 2022 Britt Baker card. That's her
in the background.
That's her. No, she's the one that's like being all like the Britt Baker kind of has like the smile on her face that she has someone in one of her moves. That's
course.
That's Julia Hart.
Yeah.
In the photo. So my friend, like I told him when I bought the PMG, I was like, well, it's a nice one because it's her rookie year. And he goes, well, that's not her first card. He always like corrects me that's because he's a big Britt Baker fan, so he collects everything Britt Baker.
Okay.
And so he kind of had fun with that.
So do you think your first edition journey will ever be complete with Time Mellow or anyone else, or do you think you're always going to be dabbling in it for as long as it's available?
Well, I'll still pick up exclusives. I'll still pick up high glosses. I'll pick up air autos. But I don't think it'll be. I don't own any one-on-ones. I always joke and say I make upper deck money. I can't afford that one-on-one. But they don't. That sounds bad. Like they don't pay me. They pay me fine. But I got out of 5. I got the high gloss. I'm pretty happy.
Pretty content.
I'll say that. Yeah. I'm enjoying right now. A lot of my attention is actually towards more Allure and more Metal Universe. I love the PMGs. I have 2 out of the 3 greens. I need the retro green, but I have the other 2 greens high series and the low series, and then I have reds of all of those. And I even like the
Nice.
purple. The purples are great. The purples are beautiful cards, but they're numbered out of 199. But they still have like the same kind of, the shiny, colorful thing. So I pick those up whenever I can too for a certain price.
You say there, obviously how nice they look. Do you get the chance to see the cards kind of finished before they go into
I
distribution, or is it
wish.
already gone by then?
Do we get like a QA case, and we're supposed to get it like a couple days before the product comes out, and consistently we get it after the product comes out. Like I'll sit
Right.
there and go on YouTube or whatever
Whatnot
to
or
kind of
something.
see what the cards look like first, because I wish our goal is to get it beforehand, and we do a lot of times too, but so then we can preemptive strike like, oops, this was a mistake, or oh, these cards look really nice, or
Mhm.
hey, and I'll talk to shops every now and then or podcasters and be like, hey, these cards look real nice. You might not pump them, but you know what I mean. Like, hey, I would give these a little bit of extra attention
Yeah, fair
because
enough.
they're nice cards.
Yeah, I was just curious. I didn't know if you were that, because you're the set builder. I didn't know if you were that much further removed that you never saw that part of the chain. Which, yeah, I just was just curious, really.
I see digital printouts. Like I approve the design. Like the designer. I say I draw stick people. Yes, but then I have to approve the designs. So
Right.
like the designs that I see, I'll be like, yay, nay, that sort of thing. So I see the designs, but I see them in a two-dimensional way that you can't really see the foil
The
board.
feel of it.
And even when you go on EPAC, I feel bad for people sometimes because they can't really get the the full effect of stuff. Like we just put out a set, and like Rainbow Foil Board really doesn't resonate
It doesn't scan well.
scans. Yeah,
No.
exactly. So that's a little bit frustrating, but um, I know what the cards are supposed to look like when they come out. I can say that
Okay.
much.
So you've at least had a glance at them as such, and you kind of anticipate what it's going to be like in person.
Yeah, for sure.
And just in kind of final comments, what's your favourite images from each of the base and obviously each of the intersets? Have you got a particular favourite of each one? And we'll just go through some cool images from across the whole lot, really.
For this set,
For the first edition
for
set,
the
yeah.
first edition. Oh, now you're gonna make me. Now give me a second. I mean,
That's hard.
obviously there's the one I collect. I wouldn't have like there are some cards that I don't collect because I don't necessarily like the like a good example is in Metal Universe. I'm not really a big fan of the like prospect, not the premier prospects, but is it the premier one? Yeah, the premier.
Right.
I don't really like it's her on the mic, and I'm not really a big fan of that image, so I don't collect it as much. But there I'm not gonna lie, there man, they even call it Series 1 in ComC. It's not Series 1.
It's
Oh, I gotta put
all year
AEW.
one.
Oh, maybe no, I didn't put AEW. That's why. Um, let's see. Which ones do I like? I kind of like it's cheesy. I kind of like the Sammy one because it kind of shows his personality.
Yeah.
Um, oh, that's something I didn't mention. See, I think we did like Anna Jay. I think we did her a disservice. I think that woman is just naturally beautiful, and I think that we didn't really do her any favors in the image. You want to know what's funny is Jamie Hayter came up to me at Double or Nothing at the Fan Fest, and she's like, "So I've got a question," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I know what she's gonna." I go, "I know what you're gonna say." She's like, "Well, just wondering," and I'm like, "Oh," I go, "I'm so sorry." Like I already knew what she was saying. She's like, "So who selects the photos?"
Oh, mate.
And I'm just like, "Yeah." I go,
Glory.
I'm so sorry. You know what image I really like is I like the Dustin and Cody from
Nice.
Road Success, where it's like you don't see many images where it's the wrestlers' backs.
The
Like
brothers in
that's
arms
that's
sort of
that's
thing.
kind of that's kind of a no-no is showing like backs of people. and I think that came out real good. I like the Jericho image. It's just kind of, he's got a cool jacket on. Like that just is, it looks like Jericho. Um,
Yeah, with the spikes.
that was a cool one. Cody Rhodes, you know what I did like is the backs of Orange Cassidy, and they actually, Orange Cassidy does stuff sometimes, maybe. That's all his card says. Height, he doesn't know. Weight, whatever. Born,
Yeah.
question mark, wherever. Like, I think AEW actually helped out with that one a little bit, but that was one of the things that when I saw that I just cracked up. The top rope cards are some of them are pretty cool, like the Darby Allin
Doing the coffin
top
drops
rope.
really nice.
Yeah, that's always good. I'm just trying to, but that saying that, then the Kenny Omega one, look, I don't even know what his face is doing there.
I like the swan
Um,
dive.
yeah, so I don't think it was a lot of more posed imagery in the first set, or like kind of closer up. And I did that for a reason, and I might have discussed this with you guys, but I like to get cards signed.
Mhm.
And I think the reason that we had the main features, that was specifically built to give me like a posed image that you could take somewhere and get those cards signed.
Right.
That
Yeah.
was those are like what we call photo shoot style photos. And so that was on purpose. I wanted an insert that people could get signed. So that's what those are. I think the Ortiz is kind of funny too. He just looks like a crazy guy. But
I think I think the way the base images are done within this set as well, like because a lot of these people are going to be fairly new names as well. I think they've also got to try and show off that character of who that person is. I think you do cover that quite well with this first base set as well. To be honest, like you get a kind of a good idea who some of these people may be, or what they kind of what their attitude is and that kind of thing.
yeah, I remember someone saying, and I'm trying to find it. I think we did Wardlow kind of dirty too in this set. And then it didn't get any better with his Spectrum card with the mouthpiece or whatever the heck was. Like, yeah, we haven't done him much justice.
I think
But
I think
but like,
Luchasaurus is one of the standout images for me. I do like that Luchasaurus with. I know it's obviously luck that you got the green stage
yeah.
behind it, but I think just having
Oh,
him looking sideways, but even the pyro like just looks really good with that
yeah.
image.
No, I agree with you there too. And there was one other one or something else I was going to mention, but I can't remember it now. But yeah. Um, there. Oh, when we were talking about images to use for the base set too, like a set that kind of is in my head, is like the Money in the Bank. It was more farther away images of like action images of them in the ring, and I just thought it was too far away. I don't necessarily need an image of them, from far away body slamming someone. I wanted a
hmm
closer up, like you said, more of a profile type image of the wrestler.
And I think that's what it comes down to. Is you want to get that take, and you want things to feel slightly different as you go through the set as well. You don't want all of the same all the way through. You need that difference coming through, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, one's in action, and then the main features was posed. Like that was done on purpose. When I talk about giving direction, that's some of the direction that I give in a set is I want it to look specifically like this.
And as a kind of like the last piece in here as well, obviously the Jazzware yellows, and we've touched on this a little bit when we spoke in the past as well, but I mean that was a relationship that kind of worked really well, and again that's still quite a chase for people, and people are still trying to get that full set, and having just those 3 cards per figure. I mean that was quite a clever thing to try and get more longevity out of this first edition set as well, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah, as I said, AEW's is smart, and let's get our license. Let's get our licensees. Is that right? Yeah, our licensees together
Yeah.
and see if we can collaborate. Upper Deck has collaborated with a number of different. We work with Tim Hortons in hockey. Back in the day, I think we did like McDonald's. There's a number of different collaborations that we Canadian Tire. So we
Yeah.
wanted to figure out a collaboration that made sense. And how many times do you see figures with cards in it? And that was just a no-brainer. And that was just kind of like a last-minute thing too. So, like I said, we had to come up with something quick and easy and affordable. So that's again, we kind of okay, what color do we want to make this parallel? Because that's all, from a time standpoint, that's all we have time to do. But the yellow, like, I'm glad we went with like a bright
It
popping
really
yellow.
pops.
I have one of those too. And like you said, those kind of hold value also. Because you got to figure, you got to buy a $20 card to get just 3 base cards of that, or a $20 figure to get 3 of those cards. And the set's 100 cards. So think of how
Tell
much.
me about it, Billy.
Oh, that's
It's
right.
hard work.
Master collector.
Yeah, it's hard work.
Yeah, one of these days, just give me a checklist of stuff, and I can see if I can find stuff easier for you in the U.S. and so you're not paying the shipping fees.
Yeah, I think this is the main thing. I have I've got family in Chicago, so I do send a lot of stuff there. But even when you start thinking about, you know, cards that are like less than $1 each, like that soon adds up for postage when you're getting lots of singles, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
E-Pack and ComC's a savior for that, especially over here in the UK. Like it's ideal for someone like me picking up these kind of cheaper cards, you know.
Yep, for sure. I love. I'll if I see like a match day and moment card that I like, I do that all the time and just pick up like a $1 card here, $1 card there. And like you said, when all said and done, 100 cards might, and I don't do it like overnight thing. It might cost me, $10. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. And that's actually the same as me. Like I'll get there where I've got a couple of 100 cards sat in there, then just get that shipped over, and that's, the cheapest way for me to do it. Then you get a nice surprise, and you can go through your checklist when it arrives to kind of see what you still need, and that's always quite nice to kind of revisit what you still have to collect, to be honest. So,
yep.
But yeah, I think we've been chatting obviously for a little while, Billy. So I want to say thank you for taking an hour out of your obviously workday morning this morning. Thank you for coming to talk all things first edition primarily.
Yeah, no problem. And I feel free to give me a call when Allure comes out, because I can go into a deep dive on that or any other products that you guys fancy. Did I say is that the right English word to use? Yes.
Yeah, whatever we fancy. Yeah. No, I mean it'd be definitely. We said this before. Like, you're always welcome to come on. We're always doing kind of bonus episodes. So if it means we do an SCR session based on Allure, then let's crack on and we'll talk about it.
We'll do. Oh, you know what's funny? And I'll sorry, story time real quick. But
no, of course, go for it.
I had a friend. They came out there from England. I think they're about like 2 hours north of London. I don't know. It's like prairie land. They showed me pictures of where they live, but
it might be near where I live.
But so I would, because I'm trying to figure out a trip out there for my birthday this year. I want to do a European tour because I've never been. But that being said, they flew into San Diego, and I got us a hotel, and so I thought the hotel had continental breakfast, and it didn't. And so I was just like looking for places, and I'm like, oh, I found this. It's called the Queen something or other. I go, they have British food. It's like all that. And they go, Billy, no offense, but Americans cannot make British food. They can try, but it's just not the same.
It's not the same.
I go, I get it. And then we went someplace else for breakfast and actually had an amazing breakfast, but we had more discussions about food, and they're showing me all about these like meat pies that you guys have. And I mean, like, it's not just like, it's like freaking steak pies. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Steak pie, yeah.
Because I go to Canada. I love like fries. I eat poutine whenever I go there. I'm like, give me meat, potatoes, gravy, and cheese, and I am a happy camper. Like, I could just live off of that. And he's just like, he's like, I have to take you here. They have the best meat pie, blah, 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 blah. Because I don't watch the British Bake Off. My sister loves that. Was it Nigel or whatever? I got her an autograph for him for Christmas this year. But I do watch all like the Hell's Kitchen, not the Hell's Kitchen, but the Kitchen Nightmares, and Gordon Ramsay going all over the place. Yeah. And everybody has to have a good Yorkshire pudding. Like that seems to be if you don't have one of those in your store, then Gordon Ramsay's going to put one in there somehow, some way.
Yeah.
But, sorry, I went off on a tangent there.
Well, I mean, that if you do come over to the UK, you can come up towards Cambridge. Us 3 guys all live near around Cambridge, so if you do come up this way, we'll definitely have to take you for There's a place down here that does like roast beef sandwiches and poutine. So we can definitely get you over there, and we'll have a catch up in person.
Oh, I want it all. I decided I'm going to do a three city tour. I'm probably going to take about a week and a half off of work, and it's going to be London, Paris, because I watched that Emily in Paris show, and I'm expecting to see Lily Collins there. I'm just joking. And Rome. I want to just knock those three out, say that I've been there. So and then I'll probably become addicted and then travel out there like every other year or something. That's what my friend does now, because they went once and they keep going. But
nice. Well, we'll see if you do come over. Yeah, we'll see if we can link up, and we'll definitely catch up later on in the new year, Billy, and talk all things brand new Allure when it lands next year.
Sounds good.
No problem. Well, have a great Christmas period, and we'll speak to you very soon, Billy.
Thanks, Jamie. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.